who's interested, and I was somewhat inundated. I ended up with about 20 of them that said, yeah, we'd really like to give that a go. And actually, also quite a few of them came back and said, it'd be really nice to have something kind of set in the week that we know we're doing. So there weren't lots of scheduled things from school. There was lots of work coming home, but there weren't lots of kind of scheduled sessions. And I think people were crying out for a bit of a need for structure to kind of know, actually, we're going to do this at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. So people were asking for that. And, and also it came from, actually it's a useful skill to have, and, conscious of screen time. There was lots of conversations, were there during, the last few months about, our children having too much screen time. So I was quite conscious about that, but also conscious that actually, something that they would enjoy doing. It's a really useful skill. We know it's part of the computer curriculum. And it's something that obviously, that school weren't providing during that period. So I went about setting up, running a club. As I said, I had about 20 people that were interested. And so I ended up splitting it and doing 2 groups, one on a Thursday afternoon, one on a Friday afternoon, to make it a bit more manageable. And I decided the school already had access to the Too Simple Purple Mash platform, which they weren't making massive use of during school closure, but they did have access to it. But I know some of the people who run Purple Mash and Too Simple, so I contacted them and said, I'm going to do this. So they gave me access, and we set about running a club. They actually have a coding club built into their platform with set sessions, and they call it Mash Club. So I just actually used that as to provide the structure. And then I also use Microsoft Teams. The school had access to Microsoft Teams. So the children were used to using Teams for some sessions with their teachers. So we set about using Microsoft Teams and Purple Mash. So I thought I'd show you just briefly some of the things that we did and some of the skills that they learn, and talk about some of the benefits that we found from using the Purple Mash platform. And then I'll go on and I'll talk about some of the challenges, because there are quite a few challenges trying to teach coding virtually via Teams with 6-year-olds. So I'll talk about some of those and how we overcame it. But I'll just come out of my PowerPoint and take you into Purple Mash. So for those of you that don't know, Purple Mash has curriculum content and activities for the whole kind of primary age range curriculum, but we used their Mash Club coding, and it's a really good setup actually for anyone who's kind of looking to get set to run a club. It's got everything you need. So it's got a getting started guide for running a club. All of the sessions are broken down. There's 8 sessions. We didn't actually do all of them. One of the challenges I came up against, well, not came up against, but I guess we all learn, is that it's quite hard to get the same amount of content done when you're teaching it online and if you've got some technical challenges. So we didn't actually complete all of the 8 sessions, but in session 1 you've got, then gives you guides that you can use to follow. So almost tells you what you can teach, and then they've got an example game. I will go back. It might not. No, my subscription to Purple Mash is finished, so I don't have it, but I can show you what we did. So one of the benefits with the Purple Mash platform and with the coding club stuff was that you can create dashboards where you can then showcase the work that they've been doing. So it was quite useful to create a dashboard where I could then put their activities they finished doing. It meant that they could all see each other's work. It also gave them a place where they could quickly kind of show their parents what they'd been doing. And also meant we could feed it back into school. So I was able to send their teacher back in school and say, this is what we did in Coding Club this week, and here's a link to the work that they created. So it helped us to make some connections back into school as well. So I'll try and show you some of the things that they did. Hopefully it'll load. Just give that a moment. So we did a number of different activities. We started off by making a game. So this is the game that they made, where they had to control a dragon and a wizard, and the dragon was chasing the wizard. And every time the dragon caught the wizard, they had to create a code so that the wizard changed image and made a noise. And then they put in some counters in the top right hand corner so that when it reaches a certain number, it tells them the game is over. So we learned about setting some images. We learned about if statements, so that if the dragon catches the wizard, change the wizard's picture. So we use if statements. We obviously learned about setting controls. So there are keyboard controls, so that if key pressed is, I'm not sure what this child did for his key presses, but if key pressed is L, then move the dragon left. If the key press is right, move the dragon right. So we learned about inputs, outputs, and if statements. And that was the dragon coding game. We also did, I'll come out of that one. We also did a dancing one. I'll see if that loads. So we did learning a bit more about controlling elements on the screen and moving them around, but this time trying to synchronize two elements moving at the same time. Again, learning about inputs and outputs. We also added some music to it. So we were controlling image figures or a robot to dance. We used some of the content that was freely available kind of during lockdown. So you might be aware that the BBC made available some of their TV set backgrounds for Zoom and stuff. So we used the Strictly Come Dancing set picture background and put that in to Purple Mash. And then they put two people onto the stage and program them to dance around. If this loads up, it might be a little bit noisy because they've all got the Strictly Come Dancing theme music added to it as well, which the children really enjoyed, and they really liked putting some stuff that they're quite familiar with and some pictures and noise sounds that they're familiar with. So it helped from that point of view. So they had people dancing around, and then we went on and we did some more complex things, looking at what if statements and lots more inputs outputs. So it was a really simple platform. It uses block coding, so it's really easy for the children to kind of drag and drop blocks of code and build it up from that point of view. It also has an error coding section, so it helps you to a debugging section. So it can, as they run their code, it highlights areas that are not working working properly. So it helps them to look at, okay, what's gone wrong here? And they can start to debug it and make some corrections and changes. So the children really enjoyed it. They got a lot from it, and we managed to achieve quite a lot in, I think I did it for about 10 weeks in the end. We finished just as the summer holidays were starting. So I'll go back to my PowerPoint. So some of the challenges that we had during, so the first thing was visibility of what they're doing. So if in a primary context, you would often, you're either taking them to a computer suite or an IT suite, or you've got a bank of laptops or whatever in a classroom. And it's easy to see what they're doing because you can walk around the room and you can see what they're doing on the screen. They can point to things that aren't working. You can help them out. Obviously, in this context, they were all sat at home, and I was sat at home, and I couldn't see what was on their screen. So I had to kind of quickly think about, okay, how are we going to handle this? So we did it two ways. A couple of them actually, as we've all learned, they've all, the younger ones have all become very technologically adept over this period. So a few of them were logged on a laptop, and they also had an iPad or an iPhone that they were connecting to Teams with to be part of the session, and they would use the camera on there to show me their screen so I could see what was on their screen. The other way that we used some of the functionality in Purple Mash, and what we were able to do is that they could save their work, and then as a teacher, I can then go in and I can open their work. And so actually I was able to bring up on my screen exactly what they were doing. I could have a quick look and go, actually, look, that's not working because you've done a what if statement rather than a if click statement. So that was quite useful. It also meant that as a teacher, at an end of a session, as a teacher, I can go in and I can look at all of their work, and actually I could comment on it. So I could put a comment and say, that looks great. So if you've done really well, next. And the other thing was pace. I talked a little bit about there was, we didn't get as much achieved as you might achieve in a face-to-face session. So in the Mash Club coding sessions, they've got them, I showed you, broken down into 8 sessions. We probably did each one over 2 sessions. So we didn't get right to the end. There's obviously a huge range of abilities, which is obviously, that's always challenging, but it's quite challenging to handle remotely when you can't do a huge amount about it. And it was quite challenging to try and have lots of them at various different stages. And obviously some of them a bit more demanding than others. Some of them are quite confident with computing and computer skills, and they did really well, and others were obviously a little bit less confident, needed a bit more help, and had to be really kind of mindful of them not dominating and demanding too much time. And then obviously, I think I became more confident as we went through it in providing individual support. As I got quite confident at, right, save your work, I'll pull it up over here, I can look at your work, I can give you some quick feedback, and then I can give you your work back and you can carry on. So we kind of built up our own kind of confidence and skills in that area, so that it became, they got more from it. Right. But the benefits of doing it, what do the children get from it? Children learn a lot, definitely. And certainly some of the parents kind of provided feedback as we were finishing and saying, oh, thanks for doing that. It was really good. It was Charlie's top activity during lockdown. He looked forward to it every Thursday. One of them said, yeah, we love it. It helped to provide structure to our week. We knew what we were doing Thursday, 2:00. It was also quite a good time for some families to do something together. So a number of the children joined the session with their parent and did it alongside their parent. And the parents weren't particularly computer competent, or certainly not coding competent either. So they were learning alongside their child, and quite a few parents kind of said really enjoyed it as a way of just kind of sitting with my child, spending an hour, and actually not having to lead the session. I'm not the one trying to get anything out of them, but actually I'm learning alongside them. So that was quite that was a benefit that came from it as well. Children obviously learn lots of skills, provide the structures for the week, as I've talked about. Helps provide that kind of point in the week where some of the children were coming together and they were learning together, and they started to kind of help each other and talk about what they've been doing. I showed you the presentation areas where they could go and look at each other's work and provide feedback and ask questions. And it helped to kind of demonstrate to the school. I'm a school governor as well, I should say. It helped me kind of demonstrate back to the school in a kind of non-threatening way. Here's some of the possibilities. Here's some of the things you could be doing using different online platforms and teams and doing lots of other things above and beyond sending home the work that you're sending home. And that's it. That's what we did. We got a lot from it. Children really enjoyed it. They're back to school this week, which is great. But yeah, we got a lot from it. If anybody's got any questions, feel free. I've talked about Purple Maths, which is the primary platform. There is a secondary or an older age platform as well called Python in Pieces, which is more text-based coding using the Python language as well. If you're interested in that, I can send you some details on that as well. Has anybody got any questions?
No questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Anthony. That was really useful. That was really good to see what the students had learned and what they could do. I think they're more tech savvy than me, doing things like that. Thank you for your time. If everybody else is if there's no questions at all for Anthony, I think we'll conclude this training session. Okay.
Yeah, and if you think of anything afterwards, by all means, just get in touch with me. It's fine.
Fab. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
And you.